All right. Hopefully, I'm actually audible this time. I'm really hoping so. Actually, can I check this on like my phone or something? I'll talk about like what happened later. Just give me a second. If I could play this on my phone, would I be able to like find out for certain if I'm actually audible right now? Come on. Where's my stream? How do I even find that? There I am. Okay. Hello? If I could play this on my phone, would I be able to like find out for certain if I'm actually audible? Okay, shut up. We're live. Okay, we're live. We got it. Okay. Had to make sure because well, there was a previous stream. I went for several hours. I read 8 chapters of a book. And wow, to make a long story short, it was an audiobook minus any audio aside from some like background music, which was classical music for reading. And it was just that. It was kind of loud too. It was pretty much just the music from that video for several hours. So obviously I had to. Well, it was like it got copyright claim. It was allowed to stay on, but that's like. I mean, and it's like it's royalty free. Well, I assume royalty free music, but it was it had to come down. That's the point. So I'm gonna have to reread 8 chapters at least of this book. It's like 52 pages. It's a rather big text book. I don't even know where to start from. I was actually really happy with how that previous stream turned out, and it's kind of weird knowing I have to redo the whole thing. So I talked about a lot. I covered a lot, and I'm kind of at a loss as to what's that face? Kind of already at a loss as to where to start. So this is The Adventures of Diggeldy Dan. This is the first book in the Diggeldy Dan series by Edwin P. Norwood. And if I remember correctly, these came out around the hold on, these pages are. I wouldn't say they're stuck. They're just not moving. Another. I have 2 cue cards here. I read this back in high school, so it was like years ago, because I'm graduating from college like 2022, and yeah, it was published by Boston Little Brown and Company in 1922. So it's kind of an old book. They don't print this thing. This is out of print, so it's kind of a. The book itself is royalty free, or what? What's the right word? Is it royalty free? I already forgot. Public domain. That's it. But yeah, I have all 4 Edwin P. Norwood books. At least the 4 that I know of that exist. There might be more. I don't even know if I really searched much for them. But there is The Adventures of Diggeldy Dan, The Friends of Diggeldy Dan, In the Land of Diggeldy Dan, and Davy Winkle in Circus Land. And a while ago, like years and years ago, when I first got these books, I think the first one I got was Davy Winkle in Circus Land, and I got it from this bookshop. It's not even around anymore, but sold out of print books. And I got it. I thought, ooh, look at this! It's an old 1920s book that I can't find much information about some kid who goes to a clown world. And, ooh, it's probably, going to be really spooky, so I'm going to start reading it. It's going to be my own creepypasta in real life. It's going to be great. And as I read, the first chapter of it, as a creepypasta video. I read the first chapter as a creepypasta video, and it was... Because I thought, I'm going to continue reading this, and it's going to be spooky or something. Something spooky's going to happen. I don't know why. I guess it was just because, high school brain, but... It didn't end up being that. It ended up being... pretty normal. But I think I read it in a different order. I think I read that one last out of all the Edwin P. Norwood books. Anyways, point is, all these books are carnival themed. Davy Winkle in Circus Land, if I remember correctly, is just completely unrelated. It's a different book. Same a basic theme of like carnivals and stuff like that, but it's a different series altogether. The Diggeldy Dan books are their own thing, and they have their own lore. I don't know if there's any connection. I don't think I can ask Edwin P. Norwood. I'm pretty sure he's not with us anymore. But yeah, so we're gonna jump right into this. Again, I'm already really scatterbrained because I wasn't expecting to have to reread this. I thought, oh, I'm gonna even today. I was playing today. I was gonna continue on chapter 8 and just keep going, but I thought I should really recheck like what the first stream sounded like. I don't know. Something told me like I should make sure the audio sounds good. Was no audio, but we're gonna like try to play the music just for background purposes. I'm gonna like lower my volume. It's gonna be really quiet. I want it to be like really just kind of soft and in the background, not kind of like maybe a little too soft, you know, but whatever. I want my voice to be the main thing you're hearing here. All right. I'll talk more about it later on about the book once we get into it. There'll be more to talk about once we actually get started. So, The Adventures of Diggeldy Dan, Chapter 1. Let me have a sip of tea first, actually. That's still hot. Alright. I should have really moved the book out of the way, because this is hibiscus tea. I didn't brew it correctly. I should have got it to boiling temperature, but I got it like short of boiling, and it actually tastes kind of off. Anyways. Chapter 1. In which Dan meets the pretty lady with the blue eyes. Had you tiptoed to the very edge of a certain town on a certain day not so very long ago, you would have come upon a great sprawling cluster of big and little tents. And had you held your breath and walked ever so quietly, you would finally have reached an open space in the very center of the bigger tents, where stood a small white tent that seemed far more interesting than all the rest. Just why it seemed so would have been hard to tell unless it was because, though, there was not so much as a... Wait. Sometimes the wording for these books can get a little, you kind of get lost. That's my excuse. Okay. Very cluster, white tent. Just why it seemed so would have been hard to tell unless it was because, though there was not so much as a thimbleful of wind astir, a certain spot in its canvas wall kept bulging in and out, after the fashion of a curtain in the... Nice thing about physical books is you get that like page-turning ASMR. In the breeze. At times, this spot would settle back into place only to start jiggling a moment later. Just as though there was someone inside the tent, clutching at its walls and shaking it much as a monkey rattles the bars to its cage. As for the open space between the little white tent and all the bigger circus tents, for the tent were all a part of Spangle Land, there was no sign of life. True, there were gaily dressed men scattered about here and there, and women too, but all were fast asleep. Some lay back in low canvas chairs, strung in a row in the shadow of the tents. Some with their chins propped in their hands, were perched like pigeons on the tongues of wonderful red and golden wagons, while still others lay at full length on the cool green grass. The lap of one was covered by a newspaper, and that of another held an open book, just as if their owners had grown weary of reading and dozed to their sleep. Square in the middle of a sentence. So there was no sign of life except the jiggling of the wall of the round white tent that stood in the center of all the bigger tents. Meanwhile, the day was fast making ready for bed. Indeed, the sun was just on the point of slipping out of sight behind the very largest of all the bigger tents when, far off in the sky to the west, where appeared a tiny black speck, there appeared, not where. And at this, the wall of the round white tent began to jiggle more violently than before, while a wee little eye appeared, peeking through a wee little hole in its wall. And as the wee eye watched, the speck grew in size and then began to describe little curves as if it were bounding up and down as it came. And for that matter, so it was. For the speck was a bird on the wing as it was headed straight for the tents of Spangle Land. On it came until it had reached the very edge of the circus town, and then it began to bound up and down even more than before, and to circle this way and that, as if to make sure of some certain thing of which it alone knew the secret. But it flew more slowly now, so that one might have seen, had any been there to see, that its colors was a wondrous blue, and if so, next page, gorgeous a hue that the red and the golden wagons, which were just at the right moment struck by the sun's parting rays, must have felt very much ashamed of themselves. Finally, as if no longer in doubt, the bird fixed its eyes on the little white tent, and flew straight to the wee hole in its wall. As it reached the tent, it began to call in the softest voice imaginable. "Oh, Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan. Oh, Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan." While from behind the wall of the round white tent came the merriest of voices in reply, singing almost as softly. "Here's Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan. Here's Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan." "Then," said the bird, who had by this time perched itself on the nose of one of the little round poles that stuck out near the eaves of the round white tent, "come forth at once, sir." And at this command, the canvas wall of the round white tent was parted by the very hands of the one who had been jiggling it in its impatience to put it aside, and little by little, as if he feared that those who slept might waken, there appeared the funniest little old man in all the world. First came his head, all white and smooth and crowned by a queer round hat that came to a point at the top. And his ears were white too, and so was his face, except for his red lips and 5 curious spots of red, one on his chin, one on his brow, and one on each cheek, and one on the tip of his long, funny nose. He wore a collar that was all ruffled and round, and a baggy white suit trimmed with great polka-dot patches that might have been likened to a very red apples, except for the fact that half of them were blue. "Come, come, make haste there, Dan, if indeed you are Diggeldy Dan," cried the bird from its perch on the little round pole. Quite so," chuckled the funny old man, and suiting himself to his words, he made a quick step into the open, danced 3 steps to the left and 3 to the right, and... next page. Then, doffing his queer sugarloaf hat, made a very grand curtsy in the direction of the bird, saying as he did so, "At your service, little messenger." "And then you know who I am," exclaimed the one who had come out of the west. "But I must be very sure. So tell me if you can." Where was I? Oh, what rhymes with this? "Oh, Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan." "Why," answered the clown, for you must have guessed that he was a clown. "Why," he repeated, "you are the courier from Tubo Tan." But though the bird nodded in approval as if to say, "Yes, yes, that is correct," it still seemed reluctant to admit that the man was really Diggeldy Dan. So it put its head first to one side and then to the other, and puckered its very blue brows, as if thinking up some further test. And then it spoke again. "Diggeldy Dan, if indeed you are Diggeldy Dan, who was it who told you the last line of the rhyme?" "Why," answered the clown with great readiness, "it was the pretty lady with the blue eyes. She came to me in a dream last night, riding her white horse through the skies. She wakened me, or at least I thought she did, by tickling my nose with her slim little whip. She said, 'Tomorrow after the circus is over, and the great crowd has gone home to its supper, and after the people of the circus have had their suppers and are come back to the shady places and about the big tents, to read and to tell their tales and to take their ease, they will all fall into a very deep sleep. That is all but Diggeldy Dan.'" And at this the clown paused to take a much-needed breath, for he had become somewhat excited in telling his story, and to speak the truth, had quite forgotten to breathe between sentences. But at a sign from the bird he went on. "As for you, Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan," continued the pretty lady with the blue eyes, "you will not go to sleep. Instead, you are to hide in the round white tent that stands in the center of all the bigger tents, and wait for the messenger who will come out from the west." And then she told me with the rhyme, "For tomorrow," she said, "you'll have been a clown for 100 years and a day." Yes, that was just what she said, 100 years and a day, and so I have been. But what of that, my pretty bird? For see, I can still dance as merrily and as lightly as any butterfly that flits o'er the fields in the May. As if to prove what he had said, the funny old clown tripped off so very blithely and so very fast that he bumped smack into one of the red and golden wagons that stood in the lee of the round white tent. "Aha!" said the white bird to itself, and hardly seeming to notice that the bump into the wagon had sent the clown to the grass on his back. "You will do, Diggeldy Dan, you will do." And with that it flew from its perch at the top of the little round pole, while in a very twinkling there appeared the most beautiful circus lady one had ever laid eyes upon, and with her a white horse right out of the sky. Get some water. What was that? It didn't work. What the heck? I keep clicking mute and it's not muting. What the heck? All right, we're back. Okay. So that when Dan picked himself up and lifted one foot, was just about to finish his dance, his red lips fell very far apart, and his eyes became almost as large as the polka dot patches that covered his white baggy suit. Indeed, he presented so comical an appearance standing there with one foot in the air and staring his visitor most out of the countenance, that the lady leaned forward on her white horse and burst into so merry a laugh that it sounded like all the silver tinkle bells in the world. "Why," exclaimed Dan, when he had finally found his voice and put his foot down, "you are the pretty lady with the blue eyes. Yes, and the blue bird too, for it was I all the while. And now, Diggeldy Dan, if you'll be so good as to come with me to the very edge of Spangle Land, I will tell you the message from Tubotan." Tubotan. Never mind. I'm sorry. I'm gonna save my commentary to the end of the chapter. And so the pretty lady with the white horse, with Dan walking by her side, passed slowly along the big and little tents, speaking not at all, while the clown kept wondering what it was he was soon to hear. Is that the end of chapter 1? All right. So, because I don't even know what I'm supposed to say after chapter 1, though. It's pretty basic information. It isn't until, like, I think chapter 2 or 3 that they really get to the point of where you can really tell what the formula for this book and in the future the other books is going to be. At this point, you know, we haven't really gotten into that. We're just kind of setting things up still. But I wanted to say, in the previous one I remembered something, and I was glad I was vindicated later on, that Tubotan is indeed a monkey. I remembered that. Remember that from when I read it in high school. I distinctly remembered him being a monkey. And he is indeed a very large monkey. I was very happy when I got that correct. Alright, chapter 2. We are on page 12. I was on page like 50 something last time. So we're at 53. No, 52. 52. I was on page 52 last time, so a ways to go. Chapter 2. In which Dan hears the message from Tubotan. Also, I should say, you should probably hear like the. Hopefully, it's not too loud, but like this sound. That's I have like some cue cards here. It's like a little post-it note, whatever they're called, like index cards. I think index cards is the name, right? From when I was in Spanish class. I could tell they're mine and not like something from the previous owner, like from the 1920s or whatever, because the handwriting is awful. But yeah, anyway, so I've been kind of using that as a bookmark, but two as little guide to make sure I don't get lost. I'm kind of like they're kind of holding it underneath like where I am to keep track, so I don't accidentally like wander like a line below where I am or something. Anyways, so yeah, back to the story. Now, when the pretty lady with the blue eyes had reached the very outer edge of Spangle Land, she brought her white horse to a pause, and Diggeldy Dan paused too. There they stood, forming a picture for all the world like one you must have seen in a storybook. Only it was much more wonderful than it could ever be, for no artist could have ever quite caught the blue in the lady's eyes, the gold that lay in her hair. For oddly enough, her yellow curls gleamed, though by this time the twilight had come and the lights of the night began to blink and to wink away off into the streets of the town. That sentence always confuses me. It just seems weird. Okay, I think I understand what they're saying, but it just feels strange. Then the pretty lady began to speak. Dan, for I now know you are Diggeldy Dan. What is in the great white tent that stands so near we stand? Why, answered Dan, there's monkeys and lions and tigers and things, and quite so, the lady broke in. It then is the tent that we want. Now listen to me, with both your funny white ears and with all your two twinkling eyes, for this is the message from Tubo-Tan to all the animals of Spangleland. Beginning on the morrow and on every day after, there is to come a wee little hour in the twilight, when all the monkeys and lions and tigers and things are to be let out of their cages and allowed to dance and to play and do as they will. But oh, pretty lady, that will not do at all, burst in Diggeldy Dan. Their cages are locked. There's no hour to spare, and maybe they'd eat folks up. But for answer the lady only laughed. The laugh was so like the tinkle bells. Have no fear, Diggeldy Dan. All that has been thought out by far wiser heads than yours. You see, it was this way. Ever so long ago, Tubo-Tan, who was the very biggest monkey, see, I was right, he's a monkey, in all the world, called a meeting of all the animals in the faraway jungle land. And when he had gathered on the highest peaks of the mountains where Tubo, just as Tubo this time. That always trips me up whenever because usually they refer to like the pretty lady with the blue eyes as like full title, and then sometimes they'll refer to her as just the pretty lady. And every time that happens, I try to like by momentum I try to say the full name, and then I get like all messed up because I realize like, oh no, it's just like Tubo or instead of Tubo-Tan, or just pretty lady instead of pretty lady with the blue eyes, or Dan instead of Diggeldy Dan. That's right. Okay. And when they had gathered on the highest peak of the mountains where Tubo holds his wonderful court, Tubo rose and made this very solemn speech. It was, as many of you know, the very dearest wish of my honorable father Vargu, that the day might come when something could be done to make easier the lot of our fellow animals, who have so nobly sacrificed their freedom and consented to spend their lives in red and golden cages, that the children may have their circus days. Of late I have had my learned counselors go into this very matter very thoroughly, and they have found but yesterday written on the face of a great stone in the depths of a certain cave in a certain mountain this remarkable decree. On the day when Diggeldy Dan has been a clown for 100 years and a day, as a reward for all the great joy that he has given little children throughout all his merry life, he will be granted the privilege of releasing all animals from their cages at every setting of the sun. And so, continued Tubo-Tan, looking out from under his bushy eyebrows, this meeting of all the animals has been called that we may discover just who this Diggeldy Dan may be, where he is, and most important of all, whether he has yet been a clown for 100 years and a day. But, interrupted Dan as the pretty lady reached this point of her story, I've been right here with the circus for ever and ever so long. Of course you have, agreed the lady. But you see, Tubo-Tan had been so busy with other matters that he didn't know that you had. But I knew. For I am the fairy of the circus, the one who watches over all the riders and all the clowns and all the people of the big and little tents. The one who knows just what each of them does every single day. And so when Tubo had finished speaking, I jumped to my feet and said that I could find you in no time at all. Then we waited until the hour should come when you had been a clown for 100 years and a day, When it came, I at once called for. We're nearing the end of chapter 2. My white horse, and, as you know, came to you through the skies as you slept. And now for the hour grows late, and you will soon be needed in this very biggest tent, to laugh and to dance and to play all your pranks. Let us be quick. Tomorrow at 12:30 twilight. When? When do you say? Puzzled Dan. At 12:30 twilight, repeated the lady. Which reminds me, I have a watch for you that you may be very sure of the hour. A very precious watch fashioned from the petals of the great white flower that never blossoms, except when twilight comes, and then only for a wee short hour. Even as she spoke, the pretty lady tugged at a silver thread that lay in the maze of mane of the white horse. And presently there appeared from the opposite side of her snowy mount the queerest looking watch that had ever told time. It was as round as a pancake, but not 1/4 as thick. Indeed, it seemed to have no thickness at all. This, said the pretty lady with the blue eyes. Actually, just as lady, but I couldn't stop myself. I just said the full name. As she unhooked the thread, is the pedal watch. You are to keep it tucked away in the peak of your round, funny hat. And each evening, just at 12:30 twilight, it will open and put forth its petals. And then you will know what time it is to let loose the monkeys and tigers and lions and things. And as Dan, taking his watch, knelt down to fold it away in the crown of his hat, there came a great burst of music from the very biggest of all the bigger tents. At the sound of the white horse began to prance, and then the pretty lady's curls, set flying by the speed of his gallop, was off through the night of the west. For a moment Diggeldy Dan made as if to follow, but he then turned, and holding his hat very tightly as if fearing he might lose the watch that was to be so useful on the morrow, he skipped away towards the great tent from whence the music came, singing as he ran. Chapter 3! Alright. Hold on a second. Let me pause the music for a second. So there's something I thought of. I thought was kind of funny. I don't know if I think I kind of picked up on this last time, but you know what? You don't have any proof because it's privated. So I'm just gonna say that I'm just figuring this out. But well, not figuring this out. It's not like a discovery. It's just an observational statement. I think it's kind of funny how the pretty lady comes in here and says to Dan, "Hey, you should like at this like very non-specific time, you should open up your cages and like let out lions and tigers, and as we'll soon find out, bears, jaguars, a bunch of very dangerous animals. Just let them out of their cage and stand in this very small area where they could very likely tear you to pieces. And for some reason in that situation, Diggeldy Dan is the one who needs to prove that he's being legit here. He's the one who needs to prove that has indeed been a clown for this oddly specific period of time. And not the lady coming in and saying, hold on, I should probably prove to you as to why you should trust me, and stand in front of a cage with a lion in it and open the door and let it come out. Because for me, that would require a lot of convincing. Even in some magical world where, animals can talk, I would be very hesitant to do that. And after this chapter, this is a chapter where you start to kind of figure out the, I guess even before then, you can kind of tell, like at this point, like you kind of guess what is that face? You kind of guess what the formula is going to be. What is that face? Stop making creepy faces. The formula is, well, I'll tell you after this chapter, because we haven't gotten there yet. But once we get there, then I have a bit more to talk about on that subject. In terms of the Because this book series has like a pattern. Because a formula, it's like, well, we'll get there, as I said. Should I start the music again? I guess I should. This is Faulkner Daydreaming. 06. I don't know what I do not understand. I do not know how to read the names for like classical music. Like when it's like movement number 5 and 67 minor number 50. Chapter 3, in which Dan releases the animals of Spangleland. As the sun sank back to rest behind the tents of Spangleland, on the day following the visit of the pretty lady with the blue eyes, it pauses for a moment, as the sun sometimes will, and shot one last long lingering beam towards the little white tent, which, as you'll remember, played a part in the beginning of this tale. Had you been near at the time and possessed some knack at riding sunbeams, you might have been mounted this one and ridden straight through the wee open place that served as a peephole for the wee little eye when the bird was first seen in the west. For it was passed through this tiny chink that the sunbeam passed, and having gained entrance landed plump on the nose of Diggeldy Dan. Indeed, it came so suddenly that the clown, who had sat hunched over on the top of the gaily painted box, lost in deep thought, mistook it for a bright yellow bee and tried to brush it aside. And then he saw his mistake and, sitting up very straight, glanced upward to the hole in the wall. "Oh, little sunbeam, so you've come to remind me," he cried. "Yes, now I will put on my hat and wait for the pedal watch to tell me the time." As he did, he so noticed that, just as before, all those who were near him were quite fast asleep. And looking up and then down inside the tent, all of the many clowns that had been packed off to Slumberland, and all the queer-looking thingamajigs, and all the odd doodads that clowns always kept near, he waited for a sign from the watch. He did not wait for long, for soon he felt something tickling the top of his smooth white head, and removing his hat ever so carefully, there he saw exactly as the pretty lady had promised, the unfolding petals of a wonderful flower. On page 20. Yeehaw! Like 30 minutes in. I think I went for about like 1.5 hours last time. Surely now, reasoned Dan, it must be past twilight. So slipping down from the box, he tiptoed in and out through the sleeping forms, passed to the open space between the little white tent and all the bigger tents, picked his way among the gaily dressed men and women, who drowsed in their chairs or lay stretched on the grass, once clear of them, skipped away as fast as ever his 2 legs could carry him, in the direction of the great white tent, where lived the monkeys and tigers and lions and things. Reaching its entrance, he spied all the keepers leaning against the poles of the tent, but they too were asleep, their chins buried deep on their breasts. Then he advanced to the very center of the vast circle formed by all the red and golden cages. At the sight of this funny old clown in the polka-dot suit, there went up such a cry from the animals that for the moment Diggeldy Dan was tempted to skip away even faster than he had come. For never had he heard such a shout, which, but for the fact that the people of the circus were in a very deep sleep, must have wakened every one of them. But the keepers slept on, and soon Dan came to realize that the voices were joining in a sort of chant. Putting his head to one side, he listened ever so intensely. And then a great smile broke over his face, for gradually the chant took form. Yes, it was quite distinct now. The animals were shouting in almost as many keys as there were voices. Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan, 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 Diggeldy Dan. I don't even know how I'm supposed to sing that. Like, I'm assuming I got the right, like, you know, was it rhythm for melody, beat? I don't know the difference between those words. But, again, it's not like I can ask anyone. And looking from cage to cage, Dan saw that all the animals were standing, their eyes shining, their faces flushed, their mouths working gleefully in the song that sang his name. And almost as quickly as it had begun, the chant ended and all was quiet at the hush of twilight. Well, well, began Dan, making 4 separate bows, one to the north, one to the east, one to the south, and the last one to the west. You seem to know who I am. Of course we do, answered the mighty chorus. You're Dan, Diggeldy Dan. We've been expecting you the whole day. I also have some chocolate here. Like, can I get should I get a chocolate break? Well, we're only like 1 page out, so I say we finish this chapter and then I get myself a chocolate break. Chocolate and tea break, because that's the best combination in the world. I went on a whole rant about that last time. How like chocolate and tea is like the perfect combination. It's severely underrated. I still stand by that, but right now I kind of want to. I'm a little more focused on trying to get to where I was before, so I won't go to as big of a speech on that. Maybe we'll just save it for later. And who, if I may be bold to ask, told you to expect me? What's that face? Makes me uncomfortable. Why came the shout? It was a little bird. A bird. Never mind the rest, interrupted Dan. I might have guessed without asking. It was the bluebird, of course. So we'll lose no time in retelling old stories, but get down to business at once. And that he might not be accused of playing favorites, and would, in so far as which animals should be the first to be let out of the cage, the old clown put his feet together, raised himself to the very tips of his toes, shut his eyes very tightly, spun around exactly 7 times, and then, with his eyes still closed, followed the end of his long, funny nose until it had brought him to the door of the cage which was nearest to it. And opening the door, and his eyes at the very same moment, opening the door and his eyes at the very same moment, Diggeldy Dan came face to face with the lion. Lion, said Diggeldy Dan, as he took one of the big fellow's paws in both of his hands. I am sure that this nose of mine showed extremely good sense in leading me first of all to your door. And now we will take the cages as they come. So Dan, accompanied by Lion, went to the gilded home of Tiger, and the 3 of them passed on to that occupied by Leopard, and so on around the great circle until every single one of the animals had been loosed from its cage. With Dan in the lead, they formed a long, winding line, and then the serpentine, entirely complete, moved forward for all the world like a troop of children playing at lockstep. Round and round they marched, swaying from side to side and singing at the very tops of their voices, with Dan tossing his head from right to left like the drum major in a band, and holding out his sides of his baggy white trousers, just as clowns oftentimes do at the circus. But after the strange procession had paraded 3 times around the circle, Dan signaled a halt. No, no, let's do it some more, pleaded all the animals. And though he was somewhat out of breath, Dan gave consent, and out they pranced again, making more of a din than before. At the farthest end of the great tent, the old clown clapped his hands. He didn't tap. I was gonna say this. Who taps their hands? That doesn't make any. Yeah, I just read it wrong. And the long line stopped in its tracks. And doffing his round, funny hat, Dan saw that the pedal watch was all but closed. Quick, quick, there, into your cages, or we'll all be caught, he cried. Monkey, you will go in last, and meantime, help me close all the doors. And with Dan scurrying about, and Monkey running so very fast that he fastened 2 doors to the old clown's one. So he fastened 2 doors to the old clown's one. The task was complete, in no time at all. Now, said Dan, after Monkey had been tucked away, I'll say goodbye till tomorrow, and then at 1/2 twilight I'll come again, and we will hold a great meeting and lay all manner of plans. In the meantime, remember, not a word to a soul. Not a word to a soul, echoed the animals in a chorus. So, swinging his hat as he went, Diggeldy Dan danced down the length of the menagerie tent, and then stopping at the end of it to give one last wave to his friends, disappeared in the depths of the dusk. So, At this point, you can probably kind of guess what the theme, what the formula, game plan. I don't know what the word is for this book is going to be. Pretty much, the way to describe it, especially after the end, and I think it kind of it stays with this for the other two books if I remember correctly. Is like every chapter, or maybe I think in the other ones maybe they take up multiple chapters. I don't remember. But every single night, there's a different thing happens, and then the night ends, and everyone has to go back to their cages, and then the next night, everyone comes out, something whatever happens, they all go back in, and in this book, it's every single chapter is like one night, and they spend. I'm trying my best not to make a Five Nights at Freddy's joke. Yeah, in this one, every chapter is just a night. So I think the first book, the intention of it, the way it was meant to be read, is like you have your little kid, and you're the parent. You have this book. You have a little kid. And, it's bedtime. You read them the story about Diggeldy Dan and the animal friends. And then before they go to bed, it's half past twilight's over, because this is vague, undefined time. Who knows what half past twilight is? So usually you'd probably just say oh, it's your bedtime, little child. Oh, but it's half past twilight. Time to read the chapter from the Diggeldy Dan story. And you read that, and at the end of the chapter, it's like, oh, little Timmy, it's half past twilight is over. It's time for the animals to go back in their cages, and it's time for you to go to bed. That's it. Then I think that's the intention of the story. As I said, the stories get longer if I remember. Maybe I don't remember. Again, I didn't get that far in this book, so they might get longer in this one. But yeah, I'm gonna get some chocolate. I have a whole bar of Mexican chocolate. I have to look up the nutrition facts for this. I don't even have it open yet. I should probably mute this, shouldn't I? I do not know how I'm supposed to... Oh, there it is. It changed color. Okay. How do I change the outline? Is that it? There we go. That looks terrible, but we'll work with it. Chocolate and tea break. Should I make it smaller so it looks like it's on the TV? Probably make a screen for this at some point. This will become a trend. Who knows? Maybe I should put a background on it. That could work, right? Backgrounds on it. It wouldn't look too tacky, right? Where is that? Is that even an option? Google fonts? Font style regular? I don't know what half of this stuff means. I mean, just bold. Just say whatever. Chat log mode. What does that mean? Alignment, vertical alignment. I guess there's no background for it. Whatever. And we got some chocolate, so yeah. Would you believe me if I told you that I cannot get this chocolate container open? There's usually like in like plastic wrappers, there's like that little flap on the back. It just came off. The flap is gone. It's just flat now. It fell off. The flap fell off. How does that happen? It just came off. It's not even like attached to anything. It doesn't even open up the way that these things normally do. So I don't even have any scissors in here. How do I open this? You have like hold on a second. I have like nail clippers. I have like a letter opener somewhere in here. Like a katana letter opener. It's made in Japan. Is it made in Japan? I think so. This is authentic Japanese steel. It's a mini katana. Oh, it's not working because it's a letter opener and it's not sharp at all. There we go. Okay, we got chocolate. So how many pieces? Is it like on the website, or one website that I found? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 2, 3. So of course it doesn't break into. Well, yeah, it does break into half. Okay, that's about half. It smells really good. Wow. Is that half? 3, 1, 2. Oh, wait, 1, 2, 3. No, that's okay. That is half. Okay. Because like it has like that weird like European style of like nutrition information. Because in America, they'll just tell you like exactly how many servings you need. Like for example, like a bag of potato chips, they'll say like per 15 chips, it's this much like sodium and stuff like that. But for some reason, like it's very simple. It's like like a cereal. Say per one cup, it's this blah 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 blah, or ice cream per blah 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 cups. And then you look at like stuff from like Europe, like England, and apparently Mexico, and it's like per 100 grams. Per 100, huh? You expect me to measure it out? That's your job. That's not. Why should I do that? You should just tell me how much. Like, just say per 1/2 of a chocolate bar. It's not that hard. I should not need to break out like a measurement scale to figure out like how much something, like how much like calories are in something, or how much sugar is in something, or how much sodium. It should just say like per bar. Now like per 100, because sometimes there's something where it's not even 100 grams. And it's like per 100 grams. Like there's not 100 grams here. Like you look at something and it's like some tiny piece of candy, and it'll be like per 100 grams it's like 500 grams of sugar, or like some absurd amount of sugar, and it's like that's crazy. Like you won't see that though. And being like a dumb American like me, I at first when I saw those things I didn't read them that way because I just assumed it was like per container, and it's like small like for example like this thing packet of like wafers. It's light as hell. It's tiny. It would be like that is like 50 grams of sugar. It's like what? This thing is tiny. There's barely anything here. How's that 50 grams of sugar? And then you look at it's like, oh, actually it's per 100 grams. It's like, how much does it weigh? It's like, I don't know, probably like 10 grams. Just say that then. I rant over for now. I still got my chocolate. It's not even, we're not even on. I haven't even consumed any chocolate yet. All right. So even with that, even with the whole break, and like the detours I'm taking, I think we're making some pretty good time so far. Because we're like an hour in, and we're already like page 25 out of like 50 something. So we're already like halfway there, and previous stream was like an hour and a half, like a little longer than an hour and a half. So we're already, I think we're doing better than we did last time. Well, I did last time. You weren't there. It was because you didn't hear it, even if you were there. It was completely audio-less. Anyways, chapter 4. And I love the name of this chapter. In which the animals elect officers. We're getting into politics here. I'm using 7.9% of my CPU. Kind of crazy that just me sitting here is using that much, but I guess I'm using the VTuber model. The music going again. What's this one called? This one's called Debussy Reverie. L68. I never feel comfortable saying that name. Anyways, on as fine an evening as one might wish for, and at exactly 7 minutes past half-past twilight by the pedal watch, Diggeldy Dan stood in the very center of the great menagerie tent, while before him were grouped all of the animals of Spangleland. Coming from their cages and from their corrals, or like elephant, zebra, and camel, being unhooked from their chains by Monkey and Dan. They had arranged themselves much as one sees them in pictures in great atlases or on gaily colored posters, but never, strangely enough, at the circus itself. In the front row sat Puma, Monkey, Seal, Leopard, Hyena, and Little Black Bear, and all of their families. Next in order came Lion, Tiger, Ostrich, Great White Bear, Deer, Emu, Kangaroo, and their families. While ranged behind these were elephant, camel, hippo, zebra, and rhino, and their different cousins and aunts, with Giraffe and his folks still back of them. There they sat chattering and laughing and making quite as much of a clatter as people do at the theater just before the curtain goes up. Now, began Dan, pulling his hands from his pockets and clapping them together for silence, it seems to me the first thing to do is to get ourselves organized. Yes, that's it, answered the merry crew. Let's do that very thing. We should begin then, continued Dan, by choosing a chairman. Who, say you, shall it be? At this moment all the animals began to talk at once. But as it was Tiger who seemed to be making the most noise, Dan said he should be the first to speak. Diggeldy Dan and fellow animals, said Tiger as he gravely stroked his chin with a huge paw, I raise to name one who, because of his very place that he has held for a long time among us, is especially suited to the office of chairman. One who, because of his great strength, his fairness, and kindly disposition, has long been renowned as the king of the beasts. The one who, as you'll remember, was the very first to be loosed from his cage. I, of course, am speaking of Lion. Hear, hear, came from all sides. Lion, of course, who else but Lion? Let's make the choice unanimous, cried Rhino, and so, somewhat flustered, by no means lacking in dignity, and escorted by Great White Bear and Little Black Bear, Lion came forward to accept the office to which he had been elected. My fellow animals, he said. Stop it. I'm reading here. Realizing that there is still much to be done, I will be brief. First, let me thank you for the honor you have bestowed upon me, and to assure you that I will do my very best to serve you. While appreciating Tiger's kindness in suggesting me for chairman, I cannot but feel that I should differ with him in one point. That is, with reference to the title, the King of Beasts. It's all very well in Jungle Land, perhaps. But here in the great land of the free, with even ourselves set at liberty, I feel that the word king should be replaced by president. I believe that, but hear cries of, that's right, why of course, president of the beasts, and the like broke in upon the speaker, and the point was carried, even before Lion had finished his argument. Now then, Mr. President, said Hippo, who had been holding a quiet consultation with the animals nearest him, it would seem to me that we should elect a secretary before we go any further, so that an exact record may be kept of these meetings, and due time sent to our very good friend, Tubotan. A very commendable thought indeed, assented Lion. Nominations are, therefore, in order for secretary. At this, the several animals who had their heads together with Hippo all jumped to their feet and began to chant, Dan, Dan, Diggeldy, Dan, 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 Diggeldy, Dan. Why, of course, agreed all the rest. Who else but Diggeldy Dan? I'll furnish a quill for a pen, said Ostrich. I know where there's an old circus poster with nothing at all on the back, cried Elephant. As he made towards the end of the tent, I'll offer myself as a table, volunteered Hippo. And I'll supply the ink, said Dan, diving into one of his funny deep pockets and drawing forth a top, some chalk, 3 marbles, and, last of all, a bottle of very red ink. And so, almost before one might have said Jack Robinson, there sat Diggeldy Dan, astride Hippo's back with a poster that Elephant had brought spread out before him. The quill that Ostrich had furnished grasped firmly in his hand, writing away for all that he was worth. While all the animals crowded around, talking at once and each trying to remember just exactly what Tiger had said when he had nominated Lion, and just what Lion had said when he spoke in reply. Of course, all this took some time. Some little time. So the opposite of what I said. And indeed, Dan concluded the first chapter of the interesting document with one eye on his work and the other on his pedal watch. And just as he had crossed the very last T and dotted the very last I, the great white flower began to close. And the very first sign of it, away scampered all the animals to their cages and corrals, while Dan, with the aid of Monkey, having locked all the doors and fastened each chain, scurried off to make ready for the circus, folding the precious poster and tucking it away with the pedal watch as he ran. Tomorrow at twilight, he cried, in farewell. Tomorrow, answered Lion from the depths of his cage, while from all parts of the tent came voices that echoed, Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Actually, maybe we're not making good times, now that I think about it. Because we're like halfway through, and we still have we only have like a half an hour until, not that I'm necessarily going to stop at 1 hour and 30 minutes, but just I kind of wanted to beat past me. Anyways, chapter 5. Yeah, that kind of solidifies more the theme of, nights. The schedule? There's a better word for it, but I don't think I'm going to think of it. So, chapter 5, in which Giraffe gives a chalk talk, and the animals learn a new game. Now, when the 4th day had turned to twilight and the animals of Spangaland had gathered to continue their meetings, that resulted in the election of Lion as president of the animals and Diggeldy Dan as secretary, Zebra announced that he had a matter of such importance to bring their attention. It has to do with Giraffe and his folks, began Zebra as he bobbed his head and flopped his long striped ears in the direction of those to whom he referred. As all of us are aware, neither Giraffe nor any of his ancestors have ever been known to speak. When we consider the great amount of talking many of us oftentimes do without really saying much, I am sometimes of the opinion that our big-eyed brothers show no little wisdom by preserving strict silence. Still, I feel that Giraffe and his family should have a voice in our different discussions, if they so desire, and think it only fair that they could be consulted to their wishes. Consulted as, whatever. While Zebra had been speaking, it was noticed that Giraffe had been all attention, and when Lion, from his place in front of the animals, asked him if he had anything to say, he nodded most positively. Very well then, Giraffe. We will indeed be glad to hear from you, said Lion, as he crossed his paws and leaned back in an attitude of strict attention. By this time all eyes of the animals were on Giraffe, and so were those of Diggeldy Dan, who sat astride Hippo, the circus poster spread out before him, his pen posed in midair, ready to jot down any and all things that might come to pass. And as they watched Giraffe unfold his lanky, long legs and for all the world like two boys on a pair of tall stilts, made his way from the rear of the group and walked around to the side of Diggeldy Dan. Then, bending his mile-long neck, he thrust his nose into the depths of Dan's pocket. "Here, here!" cried the clown. "There are no carrots there!" "Silence, Dan!" commanded Lion. Even at this moment, Giraffe removed his nose, and there on the tip of his lips was the top, which you may remember the clown had drawn out when he brought forth the bottle of very red ink. Down went the top on the broad back of Hippo, and back went Giraffe's nose in the pocket. And there's like really no music playing, is there? Should I like increase it a little bit? Because it's kind of just it's like I understand like, I don't want it to be like just music, but I mean I'll increase it a little bit. I want it to at least be somewhat audible. It is kind of in the background, you know, vaguely audible. I don't want it to be like completely like silent. All right. Who was I? Brought back Giraffe's nose in the pocket of Dan, and this time the searcher's ears began to wiggle with delight, and his eyes began to twinkle with glee. When his nose next came forth from there, held in his mouth was a piece of bright yellow chalk. At sight of it, a puzzled look crossed the faces of all those who watched. It was Lion who first caught the thought. "Why, of course," he exclaimed, with a wise nod of his head. "Giraffe proposes to talk with the chalk." "With the chalk, to be sure," agreed Puma. The picture page. So it's like page right here is kind of oh, it's like there's like a little kind of sticky at like some corner. I don't know if that's actually like glue that's keeping it together. It was just printed oddly, but it's like kind of like joined a little deeper in and shit. I don't know how to properly explain it. The pages are held together kind of oddly. I don't really want to pull them apart because I'm pretty sure they'd tear. "I know where there's a board. The inner side of the strips that close up my cage are all painted black. Come on, Elephant, and we'll get it right now." So away the two of them went, and soon Elephant was holding the board high up on his trunk. And as he held it in place, Giraffe wrote with the chalk. "Very thoughtful of you, thanks. Heartily agree with all that has been done so far, Giraffe." And putting the chalk aside, the top... Wait, I think I need the cue card. I haven't been using it. Thought I could do without it, but I cannot. And putting the chalk aside, the top, he made a low swinging bow with his long spotted neck, and hurried off to his place at the rear of the group, amid the shouts and cheers of his fellows. While the animals were cheering or telling one another just what each had been thinking, when Giraffe was rummaging in Dan's pocket, the old clown's pen was going scratch, 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 back and forth across the poster. "And now, Mr. President," said Dan as he finished writing and folded up the great sheet of paper, "I suggest that we forget business for a time and engage in a game that I have in mind." There's a picture of what's going to happen next. There's spoilers. They're spoiling it. Not even much of a game. Let's say it was spoilers. I guess I had a weird definition of games. We're almost on chapter 6. Alright. Actually, I don't know. I was going to say, maybe we are going to make good time, but I don't want to jinx myself. "A fine idea," agreed Lion, as indeed did all the rest in one voice. "That is all but Giraffe and his folks." They nodded their approval. They nodded their approval. I thought there was like I'm not using my cue card again. I need it. "It's a game called London Bridge is Falling Down," went on Dan. It was Giraffe's long neck and Elephant's trunk that suggested the thought. Suppose we begin." "Yes, let's begin," cried the animals, as they trooped into the circle that ran in front of all the red and gold cages. "First," called Dan, "you, Giraffe, and your folks will stand opposite to one another, with your noses touching. There, that's the way. Now, Elephant, you and your family will do the same, only raise your trunks very high and hold them together at the tips. Just as if you were shaking hands way up in the air. That's it, fine. Now all the rest of us will go skipping down the aisle between you." So Dan, taking the lead and calling, Come on, tiger. Come on, lion. Hi there, hippo. Away they went down through the line. Now back again, shouted Dan. And this is a song we'll sing as we go. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, 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 down. Pretty sure it's supposed to be My Fair Lady. I've only heard it. I've never heard down, down, down finishing that. I've only heard My Fair Lady. Who knows? I'm not British. I don't think. I'm pretty sure Edwin P. Norwood isn't. I'm pretty sure he's American. I don't know. I haven't really looked that up though. I'm just kind of assuming. Say, hold on a minute. I guess I could just figure out next time they say like gray or color. If there's a U in color or a E in gray, then they're probably British. Or do Australians? I think Australians also type like that, or not type. I guess it's probably whatever. Point's the same. Say, hold on a minute, cried Hippo. I'm too wide. I can't get through. I'll fix that, shouted Elephant. Up now, he commanded. And at his words, all the elephant's folks stood up on their hind legs and Hippo passed through without any trouble at all. So the game went on, with all the animals vowing that they had never had quite so much fun before in all their lives. But by this time the pedal watch had begun to close, and a word from Dan and the promise we'd be seen again at 12:30 twilight on the morrow. The merry band went back to their places. As the old clown passed out of the menagerie tent, he could still hear the voices in the distance humming the song. London Bridge is falling down, 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 down. Chapter 6. Alright. I think it's time for another break. My throat's kind of... Also a stretch break. And a music break. Because I don't want to be playing if I'm not doing anything. Alright. More chocolate. Time for chocolate break. There we go. Alright, there we go. The nice thing about this book is, at least just books like this, is because I was kind of worried about, like, the thing about reading books on stream is, like, if someone shows up later on, you're like, hey, what the heck is going on here? With this one, it's just like, oh yeah, there's a clown, and he lives in a magic circus, and every night he lets animals out of their cage and they play. That's it. You can give like the basic rundown of what's going on really easily, as opposed to like, because it's a very simple story so far. So you can like easily fill people in. All right, chapter 6, in which the animals send a message to the pretty lady. I think I'm gonna be honest. I think I remember the giraffe chapter is probably like my least favorite to read. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know why. I don't really like that chapter. This is like we're only like how many pages is it until we're one. Oh, let's just do front and back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're 6 pages away from chapter. Oh, it's chapter 7. I thought that was chapter 8. Dang it. It's a long one chapter. I thought that was 2 chapters. I guess it's not that long. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't. Chapter 6, in which the animals send a message to the pretty lady. I like this chapter more because this one has more Monkey in it. And Monkey is the best character in this entire series. So I think you'll agree with me after this chapter. If not, I'll force you. And that, finished Diggeldy Dan, is the story of the pretty lady with the blue eyes. It was on the 5th day after she, of whom Dan spoke of, had brought him the message from Tubo-10. With all the animals of Spangaland gathered around him, the old clown had been telling him of her and the blue bird. Yes, nodded Camel, she is the fairy of the circus. I have heard my father describe her. But I like the other name best, spoke up Seal, the pretty lady with the blue eyes. When my family and I go into the great white tent to perform, we often catch a glimpse of the riders as they pass on. Way from the ring. Oh! I almost lost track. The pages flipped, and I almost lost track of where I was. There are much like that, all pretty ladies with mounts like the white horse. I wish I could see her, mused Leopard. Let's send her a message, suggested Ostrich. But how? Queried Kangaroo. We've no one to send, and even if we had, where in the world should we send him? Diggeldy Dan, said Lion, what have you to suggest? Well, answered Dan, I know this much, and that is that the pretty lady went away towards the west. I would like to believe that she makes her home in the sunset. Why, if that's the case, then that's not that far from here, broke an Elephant. Even while Elephant was speaking, Giraffe came forward and picked up the chalk. Then striding to the side of the cage, he scrawled on its face, Not far at all. Looking through Eve's space, intent. This very evening. Saw sunset just back of hill. About a mile from here. Giraffe. Not more than a mile, cried Tiger. Only a mile? Then he paused and looked rather foolish. For how are they to reach over a mile? I know, shouted Monkey, dancing up and down. Balloons, that's the way, Hold on, Monkey, interrupted Lion. Not so fast, and for goodness sake, don't get so excited. Besides, I, for one, know of no balloons in the vicinity. No, I don't mean truly big balloons, explained Monkey. Wait a minute, and I'll show you. And away he dashed down the menagerie tent and was back in a twinkling, waving a great cluster of toy balloons over his head. Monkey, admitted Lion, as he took the balloons. I must confess that your head is oftentimes much larger than mine. Of course you mean to write our message tied to the balloons and get to the east wind to carry it over the hill, to the place where Giraffe saw the sun go down, finished Monkey. And then the excitement that followed. See, Monkey's the best. You got the most soul. The writing of the message fell to Diggeldy Dan. And after no end of changes, all of the course for the better, there appeared these words written on a corner that had been torn off from the great circus poster. Dear pretty lady with the blue eyes, at Sunset House just over the hill, we all want you to visit us. We promise to be very quiet. Please come at 12:30 twilight tomorrow. Signed, the Animals of Spangaland. By Diggeldy Dan, Secretary. P.S. Please bring back the balloons, because they are just borrowed. P.S. The white horse is invited too. I love that. The message complete, Diggeldy Dan produced a piece of string from one of his wonderful pockets, and aided by Monkey, tied all the sticks of all the balloons tightly together, and then fastened the letter to the tip of the sticks. Now then, said Lion, we are ready to let loose the balloons. You, Elephant, take hold of the sticks with your trunk. You, Puma, will leap to the top of the cage and hold open the eaves of the tent with your paws so that Elephant can thrust the balloons through the space and hand them to the wind as it comes out the east. I can make out the curve of the hill to the west, called Puma, who had jumped from the ground to the roof of the cage. Only I can't quite get high enough to see over the top. I'll be the lookout, cried Monkey. That is, if Giraffe will lend me his head to step over the eaves of the tent. And as Giraffe nodded, assent up the long neck, he scampered and was soon perched aloft, holding tight with both hands to Giraffe's pointed ears. All right up there, cried Lion from below. All ready, answered Monkey. And here comes the east wind around the side of the tent. Cast off, then elephant commanded. Or, cast off, then elephant commanded lion. Elephant doesn't do any commanding around here. Let go the balloons! At the very same moment, elephant gave a great swish with his trunk, and away went the balloons through the space of the eaves. You have 15... We're like at the end of chapter 6. We have like 15 minutes to complete chapter 7. 7 is a little long. We can get chapter 8 done. Chapter, like, starts a story that doesn't finish until chapter 10. We can do that again. We can see if we can get there. There they go, shouted Monkey. Up, up, up. Goodness, how they're sailing. Oh, they've caught in a tree. No, they haven't. Now the east wind has them again. Once more, they're off. They're going higher and higher. And they're bound straight for a hill. Yes, straight for the brow of the hill. And so from his perch, Monkey described every inch of the flight until, to the great relief of the animals who were grouped down below, he announced that the balloons had passed over the hill. Indeed, the word came in good time, for just then there followed a quick shout from Dan crying, "Get to your places as soon as you can!" Then came a wild scurrying to right and to left. "Now I'll bid you good night," said Diggeldy Dan, when the very last door had been locked, "and tomorrow we'll learn if we were right. And we guess that the one we have written to makes her home in the west." Weird. Chapter 7. We made it. Well, not made. I shouldn't say that yet, because chapter 8's the real goalpost. In which the animals meet with a disappointment and a surprise. My dog, what the heck? She's scratching at my door. I'll let her in. Hold on a second. Pause the music. There you go. Hi! Do you come in here? Do you come in here? Come on. No? She's just staring at me. What do you want? You want this book? She doesn't want the book. She came in. What do you think? What is it? You have to go outside or something? Yeah? You're just lonely. Want belly rubs? Yeah? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. What a good girl. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, she's just hanging out here. Alright. It's a weird looking face. She'll probably like Yu-Gi-Oh decks on the ground. She's gonna knock them over. I really shouldn't care about that. I'm pretty sure she wants to go outside. But right now she's just kind of like sniffing around. It should smell the same as last time you were in here. I don't know why you're so interested. Anyways, chapter 7. Now had the keepers who slept so soundly at the foot of the big blue poles in the great menagerie tent suddenly weakened a little at half-past twilight on the evening following which this... Where'd she go? Where'd she go? Oh, she's right behind me. Hi! What are you doing? Just hanging out? Why are you so interested? It's like a bag. I was gonna reveal this later on, but it's it's another bag from Mexico. It's I don't know what the name is, like the company, but Producto artisanal product by the sea gourmet, I guess, and it's got peanuts, garlic, and chili de árbol pepper, and grasshoppers. There's grasshoppers in here. I was gonna eat a grasshopper on stream. It's not. We're not doing the coffee and tea break at the moment. Dang it! Oh man, stream's ruined. Stream's ruined, man. Model, hello. There we go. Tracking. How's it going? Yeah. Now eventually she's gonna like get done sniffing, and then she's gonna start like whining and begging me to go outside. It's really cold out there though. It's. I'm looking at the temperature right here on my computer, which is in Celsius for some reason. It's negative 18 degrees Celsius. Yeah, she's like doing the, sitting up on her back legs thing. She wants to go outside. I don't want to go out there. It's cold as heck out there, man. I do not want to go out there. I guess I have to though. So I will be right back. I will put up the BRB screen. Yeah, I know, Izzy, I know. Should have said her name. Well, you know what I mean. All right, we are back. It is still cold as heck out there. There we go. I think I'm forgetting something. Guess not. Anyways, let's get chapter 7 out of the way so then I can eat a grasshopper. I wanted to fit it in somewhere in this stream. I just couldn't figure out a good way to put it. So I guess that's when we're doing it. I just want to do it on, I've been wanting to try it for a while. I just wanted to I thought I should do this on stream. Because if it's good and I capture the moment where I realize that I like eating bugs or something, I want to have it captured on screen. Or if it's terrible, hopefully it'll be hilarious. Now had the keepers who had slept so soundly at the foot of the big blue poles in the great menagerie tent suddenly awakened at the little after half-past twilight on the evening following that which saw the balloons go sailing over the hill, they no doubt would have rubbed their eyes, pinched themselves, and then exclaimed, "Well, of all things, wherever can those animals be?" But of course they did nothing of the kind, for the very good reason that not a single one of them so much as opened an eye. Though if they had, where do you suppose they would have found all their charges? Away over behind the little red and gold cages. And now, it doesn't say little there, I added that in there. Right. Yes, there they stood side by side in a row, their noses pressed close against the west wall of the tent, looking for all the world like so many catchers in a game of hide-and-go-seek. And Diggeldy Dan was there too. All had found peepholes in the canvas, and through these they peered eagerly in the direction of the Sunset House. They were watching for the lady with the blue eyes. "Everyone to his places," Lion had commanded, when the merry crew had been loosed but a few moments before. "And then we will go see who'll be first to catch a glimpse of the one who will ride out of the west. Not a word from a soul until she comes into view." At first it was fun, but as the minutes dragged by and no movement was seen, the watchers began to grow restless. Seals started to twist and turn. Next, Puma's tail was seen to curl and to wave, while Puma switched with his little quick jerks. Zebra. Did I say Puma? Again? Alright. Then Hippo heaved a great sigh that must surely have been heard a whole mile away. Finally, Monkey was never known to keep entirely quiet, could stand it no longer. "Lion?" he whispered. No answer. "Lion," repeated Monkey. "Well, what is it?" answered Lion at last, from his place near the middle of the line. "Ah. I don't want to watch any longer." "Have patience and be quiet, sir," ordered Lion. So the watch went on. A minute passed, and another, and another. Then something went bang. "What was that?" demanded Lion. I was standing on my own tail and went to sleep and, answered Kangaroo in a very sheepish voice. "I fell down and bumped my head against Rhino's cage." "And it was newly varnished but yesterday," muttered Rhino. Then Monkey giggled, and that sent Hyena to laughing until tears rolled down his cheeks. Even Lion was obliged to smile, though a moment later his face took on a very serious look. "Perhaps we have waited long enough," he admitted rather sadly. "I fear something must have happened. What do you think, Diggeldy Dan?" "I don't know just what to say, Lion," answered Dan. "You see, I was quite sure the pretty lady had made her home in the West. It is all my fault. I'm very sorry." There, said Lion as he placed a paw on the old clown's shoulder. "Surely none of us would think of blaming you, Dan. So come," he called out to the rest. "Let us go to the center of the tent, for we will watch no longer today." Once they knew they might leave their places, their animals were less eager to do so. For they suddenly realized how disappointed they were, now that they were not to see the pretty lady with the blue eyes. "Now," began Lion, after all had been seated, and doing his best to speak gaily, "I suggest that we—" But what it was Lion had in mind, no one ever came to know, for just at that moment he was interrupted by the pattering shower of silvery rain. The shimmering flecks fell everywhere around the animals, on their heads and on their backs. What in the world is this? Exclaimed Lion. Why, they're spangles, cried Elephant, who had picked up some of the bits with the tip of his trunk. Spangles, sure enough, agreed Diggeldy Dan. I never saw any as bright, nor have I known spangles to come out of the sky. But they couldn't have come from the sky, responded Tiger, for how could they have passed through the roof of the tent? And as if to prove Tiger wrong, there came a second and even greater shower than before. This time there were so many spangles that they fairly tinkled as they fell. While mingling with their tinkling was a rippling laugh that sounded like silver bells played all in a row, and all the marvelous things the voice came from the depths. Of all the marvelous things the voice came from the depths of the great red and golden home that belonged to Giraffe. Instantly all eyes were turned around to the house on the wheels, and the very same moment its doors swung apart, and there, framed by the opening, stood the pretty lady with the blue eyes. Almost at page 50. We're almost there. I think I'm gonna stop at chapter 8. I think I need to give my voice a rest after like 1.5 hours of well, not entirely 1.5 hours of all reading, but you know what I mean. I do not think I could stand like chapters 8, 9, and 10. I think my voice would give out or something. Okay. Framed by an opening, so the pretty lady. So the pretty lady with the blue eyes, white dragon. I had to. Even as the animals stared in open-mouthed wonder, their golden-haired visitor threw back her head and laughed until from her eyes came tears as glistening as the spangles that dotted the ground. If it weren't for the fact that she was blonde, I definitely would have had like a picture of like blue eyes, maiden with eyes of blue on here just to say, look, there she is. I could still do that. Like just every time she pops up, I just have her like just bring her out from underneath, like just have her pop up from somewhere. It's like, there she is. There's Free Lady. Then she stopped quite as suddenly as she began, and putting her left foot behind her and the tip of one finger to the tip of her chin, made so grateful a curtsy that all the animals found themselves trying to do the very same thing. Though it must be confessed that some of them made a rather awkward job of it. As for Diggeldy Dan, he made a very grandest bow that any clown had ever made. While taking his cue from Dan, Lion put one paw to his heart and said in a very solemn tone, Dear lady, we one and all bid you welcome. Though how you got here, we are still at an entire loss to know. I just know I'd be able to. I just felt like I wanted to, like, they specifically said very somber voice. I thought I'd try to do it at least once. And I don't know if I'm not that good at those type of voices. Okay, no, I already read that. Why, answered the pretty lady as she tipped from the doorway to where Lion stood. I came in under the wall near the end. I went right past your nose, kangaroo, in fact. I think you were napping. At that, you may be sure a certain animal looked very foolish. Then, she continued, I hid in Giraffe's house, and after you were seated, began tossing spangles through the window near the top. You see, I always carry them in a bag that I may sprinkle the sunset whenever I pass. So, you do live in a sunset house. Or you say you live at Sunset House, said Diggeldy Dan. Just over the hill where the sky turns to pink. The balloons and the message came in through my window last night. Goodness! You didn't forget to bring them back, did you? Monkey! Cried Lion reprovingly, for you might have guessed who had spoken. But the lady only laughed at the question. Indeed I did not, she replied. With that she gave 3 quick claps from her hands, while from somewhere in galloped the white horse. And there, clasped to a buckle of his snowy trappings, were the balloons that had gone over the hill. Soon they were taken to where Monkey had found them, but alas, the next moment the lady had leapt to her place and was gone down the tent like a I would not be able to continue on like this for like 3 more chapters. No, cried all the animals. Please don't go away. Oh, please don't, wailed Monkey. I didn't mean to be rude when I asked about those balloons. I'm not going away, the lady laughed back. I'm just combing my hair with the mane. See? Oh, My eyes are hurting. Also, it's almost midnight, so I'm a little tired. I think it's mainly tiredness. And the mane and the tail of my... Okay. I'm combing my hair and the mane and the tail of my white horse. And around the great circle the two of them sped, then stopped in front of the animals again. You see, said the lady as she tossed back her curls, combs and brushes are so much bother that we never carry them. But just let the rush of the wind take their place. But now that it's done, pray tell me why you sent for me. What am I to do? Ugh. I got like a strand of hair on my face. It's just that that little dialogue about hair made like a strand of hairs manifest. It just summoned hair on my face. About Tubo Tan, suggested the little black bear. Yes, chimed all the rest. About Tubo Tan. Very well, nodded the lady, and leaning forward on the back of the white horse, with her chin cupped in one hand, she began. Many years ago, so very many that there are not enough stripes on zebra's sides, nor yet on his ears to count them, there lived in faraway jungle land a very wise monkey named Vargoo. In those days the different animals mingled not at all, each being content to keep solely to the company of his very own kind. Now one day this monkey named Vargoo was seated in the fork of a tree, quite lost in deep thought, when a leopard trotted by underneath. Spying the leopard. Pretty lady, pretty lady, Diggeldy Dan interrupted. Dan, cried Lion. But the pedal watch, it's closing, answered the clown in despair. Goodness, so it is, echoed the lady. But you shall not miss the story, for I will come again tomorrow. So with the twilight, I will come until then, fare you well. And with that, she was gone like a flash. Oh, we're almost done. Through the dusk, while the animals all hurried back to their places, each wondering what it was they were to hear the very next day of the very wise monkey named Vargoo. And chapter 8 is called The Lady Continues Her Story. And then chapter 9 is called The Lady Concludes Her Story. But we'll save that for next time. Assuming I don't have to reread this again. I really don't want to. It's not that I don't like the story. I love this. This is like one of my favorite book series of them all. I love the Diggeldy Dan series. And I really want to be able to get it out there, get more people to know about it. You know, I don't really have much of an outreach, but I'll do what I can. And I've got to eat a grasshopper now. I don't have to. Well, I guess I kind of... They're like you gotta eat them, right? Because like, what are you gonna do? Like, not eat them? Let them like expire or something? No, that's even like worse than eating them. I'm looking for like an expiration date to see if it's gonna be like, oh dang, oh sorry, it expired like 5 weeks ago. Ah dang, I can't eat it. Where is it? They really hit it, didn't they? No, like no preservatives. Who knows? It might not be good anymore. Where is it? Where's the expiration date? Does it have one? I guess not. That's mildly concerning. I don't know what to expect from this. Genuinely. Like, does it taste like what does it taste like bug? Does grasshopper taste like grasshopper, or does it just taste like whatever seasoning you put on there? I'm hoping it just tastes like seasoning. I'll say the weird thing about insect meat is you just eat the whole bug. It's not. Oh, it smells like bug. Smells like bug. This whole package smells like bug. This feels weird. It's like... Yeah, it smells like bug. It smells like bug. It's like a whole one right there. Doesn't look too bad. It looks kind of like dried out. It smells like bug. It smells like bug. That one's got like a head in there. Oh my god. The abdomen is like gone. There's still got no legs. It smells like bug. It smells a little bit like chili too. I guess we'll. Not bad. It's actually not that bad. Actually, it's pretty good. Wow. The texture's not even that bad. It's fine. It's like perfectly crunchy. Wow. Yeah, I like that. It's underwhelmingly good. It sounds weird, but it's just good. It's just unironically just good. It's just tasty. Yeah, it just tastes good. Yeah, it's just crunchy. That's really good. Wow, that's tasty. Yeah, it just tastes like seasoning. Yeah, that's some good stuff. I got a strange like aftertaste. It's like very subtle. Yeah, that's good. Wow. It's actually they're tastier than the peanuts. Wow. Yeah, they're tastier than the peanuts. I was not expecting that. Wow, grasshoppers taste good. They're spicy. There's like I think it's the seasoning on there, but they're spicy. They're delicious. Wow. I am kind of surprised actually. Stop it! I'm eating grasshoppers. Yeah, it's really good. Wow, I was not expecting them to be that good. Like I was expecting the like the texture to destroy me, but the texture's fine. They're just crunchy. There's no like a weird like because I'm a very strong texture guy. Like if the texture bothers me, it bothers me. Like I will gag. I will gag if a texture in slightest way bothers me. Like, I will gag while eating like mandarin oranges. I love mandarin oranges. I think they're great. Hello? I was just making sure my streams are working. Yeah. Yeah, I'm this type of person like if I eat like mandarin oranges and like I get like a little bit of like like the skin on it like kind of like stuck, I will gag. It will bother the hell out of me, but and I was like really because I'm like I guess I said I'm very sensitive. I love mandarin oranges, but the texture of those things, even those can bother me. So you need like a grasshopper where you have like the head entirely intact. Well, maybe I don't know how much of it's intact, but it just tastes fine. It's good. Wow. Yeah, I'll just continue snacking on those. That's surprising. Huh. Wow. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I've never eaten a bug before. And I've eaten like 3 or 4 of them right already. And they're just tasty. They're just good, and there's nothing wrong with them. Huh. Anyways, I'm tired. It's like it's almost midnight. And I'm sleepy. I'm a sleepy boy. I still got some chocolate left. So I'll just drink the rest of my tea and eat the rest of my chocolate, and we'll continue on with this story next time because I've been having a lot of fun with this. We're already like let's see, we're already like a quarter of the way done with the. Yeah, we're a quarter of the way done with the book. Now I think as we go on, we'll be able to like continue like up the pace. Though I think personally I prefer the I think we start getting into the kind of like the rhythm that the other books will have. But the first few books the other 2 books, they have like a certain like a pattern is like a random animal is selected and they go on this adventure. And the adventures are like the best part. The adventures are always so, because Edwin P. Norwood does a really good job at making like very whimsical like settings and very whimsical stories. And they're usually not that complex. There's usually not a lot of conflict in them. They're usually very straightforward. But just they all feel like dreams. They're like very like whimsical dreams. That's what they feel like. And I know the other two books, they get into that. And I remember like they have ones like what was it? There's like one that has like it's the end of In the Land of Diggeldy Dan. So I think it's Adventures of Diggeldy Dan, In the Land of Diggeldy Dan, and The Friends of Diggeldy Dan. That's the reading order. And I remember the end of Land of Diggeldy Dan has like the story with it's like a chicken and a kangaroo. They're like pirates. Let the whatever character is chosen for that adventure, is going with them, and they're trying to find treasure. There's one with one that I remember I don't remember it very distinctly. I remember the characters in it because there have a whole bunch of owls, and they live in a tree, and they're all named after all the different vowels. They're vowel owls. And I remember there's A, E, I, O, U, and then there's sometimes Y, which, yeah. And then there's sometimes W. That was my first time ever hearing that W could sometimes count as a vowel. I'd never heard that before. Apparently, in these very rare situations, W can count as a vowel, which is weird. But I remember when I played DC Universe Online, this seems like a complete jump, but when I played that game, because I used to play that game all the time, and I used to just constantly make new characters. I had a character who was like kind of like a Batman style superhero, and his name was sometimes W, and he was like one of my favorites. Because that was around the time when I was reading the books, and I got like really invested in them because they're good books. They are genuinely good books, and I don't know. Hopefully, the real goal here is to get the word out about them as best as I can, because I think these stories deserve some love. They deserve some attention. I think they are genuinely. I don't know if I'd say like brilliant literature. They're like silly little kids books, but they have a lot of charm to them, and hopefully I'll be able to convey that through these streams and get through the other ones too. I'm hoping to get through at least the entirety of the Diggeldy Dan books. At least definitely this one. Definitely at least get through the first book, but I'm hoping to get the other books read too. Then who knows? Maybe move. I have a whole bunch of like really old books. Like something I got from like my old English teacher. He was really, really great guy. And that was the one that I like read all these books in. I was a class who read these books in. But anyways, I think I'm gonna end the stream here. One of these days I'm gonna have to come up with like a stream outro. Something to just say at the end of the stream. I don't have that yet. I don't have like a outro or an intro. The thing is, intros are pretty easy. You don't have to come up with like a funny intro. But outros, you gotta like say like something. I don't got that. So for now, we'll just hit the end screen, and I'll see you next time, whenever that is. Hopefully not too long. Though I have like a job starting soon. I got a new job. Looking for that. It's like starting pretty soon. But hopefully I'll still have time to continue streaming. I'll just because I usually stream late at night anyways. So maybe like on the weekends. We'll see how things go. So anyways, I will see you next time on Dragon Ball Z. It's not Dragon Ball Z.